His contribution to law, governance, and public service and public discourse have shaped generations of legal minds and continue to influence national debate on justice, accountability, and constitutional interpretation. At UPSA, we are proud to host this third honorific lecture and award ceremony as part of commitment. That's our commitment to advancing excellence, scholarship, and public service leadership in Ghana. We are especially honored by the presence of Excellency, the Vice President, and the Honorable Chief Justice of our Republic to be present here. Your presence elevates this occasion and reaffirms the vital connection between the state's leadership, the judiciary, and academia. We are equally privileged to welcome our distinguished former Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, member of Council of State, whose contribution to national development continue to inspire public service excellence, who will deliver public service excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, let us proceed in the spirit of reflection, intellectual engagement, and celebration of excellence, as we honor a man whose legacy continues to shape the legal profession in Ghana and beyond. Once again, Excellency, on behalf of the Council Chairman, management, faculty, students of UPSA, I warmly welcome you all, and please thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
We're very grateful to you, Professor Mauto. Shall we appreciate him with another round of applause? Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice of the Republic, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined here, as I mentioned earlier, by stalwarts of the bench, greats at the bar, and many friends from various aspects of society whom I'll be acknowledging as we go along. But at this time, please permit me to welcome the very vibrant Dean of the UPSA Law School, Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi.
His Lordship, the Chief Justice, all other distinguished protocols observed. I'm deeply honored to stand here today and to witness this momentous day in the life of someone who has already been described as one of Ghana's greats. Rights at the level of the legendary. Echoes in the pantheons of Ghanaian legal history, reaching the stars, and some would say creating intentional but also accidental protégés. Therefore, I'm going to ask him a few questions without expecting answers. Is it true, Mr. Tsikata, that they say that your first class, unlike other first classes, was notable and rather different? Is it true what they say, that you were the first African in Oxford to make a first class? Is it also true that you were so diminutive in figure and character as a lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, that you had to be provided a platform to teach, otherwise your students wouldn't see you? Mr. Tsikata, your famed legends even included the name Tsatsu itself. And I'll leave that to the speakers of Ghana who understand what Tsatsu means, to start wondering whether you were akin to whatever your name sounds in the Ghana language. At UPSA Law, the Lifetime Achievement Awards is the preeminent award given to persons who have an outstanding and consequential contribution to the life of the law and the governance in Ghana, and our awardee today is truly distinguished and meeting of this recognition. As a graduate of St. Augustine's College, I will say that Mr. Tsikata's celestial accomplishment is only impacted by a minor blip his affiliation with Infant Swim School. But that is a footnote for history. For now, I choose to focus on your association more with Achimota School instead. We do not want to be condemned to the fate of those who do not realize the moment of history and the weight thereof as they toy with oblivion when the achievements of others are mentioned but very so often ignored for purposes of recognition. UPSA Law School recognizes a genius of consequence, a servant of metal, and an advocate whose conviction has come to define an era in legal education, public service, and legal practice. At UPSA Law School, our association with the legal greats reflects the school's enduring commitment to excellence as we celebrate one of the greatest legal minds Ghana has produced. For the many public servants and political actors gathered here, I will say that it is a thing of regret that public service stole Mr. Tsikata from academia so early, a development that has left the latter to rue the prospects of what could have been had Mr. Tsikata stayed longer in academia and offered greater scholastic thinking, intellectual protégés, and legal research that would have transformed Ghanaian education. Nonetheless, we are thankful that he did not embark on a journey abroad and therefore deprive the entire country of everything else he could have offered. We are thankful that when he left academia, public service benefited, and for even those who have not read any Ghanaian history of public service, many will know that if he wasn't the founder, he was one of the first writers of the history of the institution of GNPC. Let me put on record, however, that we still continue to rue the fact that you left academia too early. May this evening's event rise to the eminence of the occasion. May the spirit of the inspiration, and above all, the historical landmark of its purpose, and may Tsatsu's name be a shade richer just for the purposes for which we are gathered today. I therefore welcome all of you in my capacity as the Dean of the Law School, and I would like to profusely thank the Vice Chancellor who has lent his support to tonight's event, and I welcome you once again to a good event. Thank you.
Dear Professor Ernest Kofi Abuchi, for these efforts that you're leading here at the University of Professional Studies, we do pray that posterity will also be kind to you. Shall we appreciate him with a big round of applause? As we all do know, our honoree, our distinguished honoree at that, is a fine product of the oldest tradition when it comes to second cycle education in this country. And of course, they're celebrating 150 years of existence. And as my senior has already mentioned, we of St. Augustine's blood, no matter how much we disagree with them, will do dearly, definitely acknowledge that fact and give them very warm congratulations. And on this note, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Ebusua Penying of the Infansipim Old Boys Association, and of course, the legendary Nana Sambro Butler, and all executives and friends from MOBA who are here to support the honoree. Shall we do a big round of applause for them? Your Excellency, respectfully as well, I would like to pay my respects to some good friends who are joining us here for this great moment of history in our chapter of trying to make sure that the young ones of this current generation appreciate what it means to serve one's nation and be devoted to a particular cause. I duly acknowledge the presence of Justice Gabriel Scott Boamang, who is a Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana. I also duly acknowledge the presence of Justice Akufo-Addo, who is also a Justice of the Supreme Court. I duly acknowledge the presence of Justice Kwachi, Justice of the Court of Appeal. Shall we do a big round of applause? And of course, as we go along, we'll continue to do some more acknowledgements. But at this time, I would also like to pay my respects to a member of the Council of State and a former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, the Honorable Betty Mould-Idrisu. Justice Emil Short is a like-fine product of St. Augustine's, even though today is not our day, and is also one who has diligently served as Commissioner of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. We salute you, sir. Nana Akufo-Addo is a Deputy Chief of Staff and a specialist in human rights law. Shall we appreciate her? When it comes to service of SHRAJ, I look across and I notice the presence of Ghana's former ambassador to France, who previously served in that capacity as Commissioner of SHRAJ. Your Excellency Anna Bosman, we're very grateful to you. And so, Your Excellency, on this very special day, as we celebrate a beautiful story, it's also great to celebrate the art of music, one which the University of Professional Studies is duly noted for. At this time, I'd like to introduce all of us to the University of Professional Studies Choir as they serenade us with two anthems. Shall we do a big round of applause for them?
From the cradle of truth and courage, the nations to God.
Your Excellency, Your Lordship, our distinguished honoree, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind all of you that we're live on the Joy News channel, which is the lead and flagship brand of the multimedia group, and also the Station of the Nation GTV. Also, we're live on the official Facebook page of UPSA, and also many other blogs and channels which are reaching different parts of the world. Today we have a heavy presence here, and this message is going to our very distinguished honoree, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. This just goes to tell you how much love you have drawn over the course of your beautiful journey. At this time, I would once again please crave your indulgence to pay my respects to a few as we go along in continuing to pay respects and celebrate this beautiful story. Today, we're also joined here by Justice Hafizata Amaliboba, who is a Justice of the Supreme Court. Shall we do a big round of applause for her? Also, Justice Charles Baden, a Justice of the Court of Appeal. Shall we do a big round of applause? The very revered and respected Professor Joshua Alabi, a former Vice Chancellor of UPSA and current Board Chairman of GCB Bank. We celebrate you, sir. Also seated next to him is the very distinguished Professor Akil Akpasoya, formerly of University of Ghana, Lagos. The Board Chairman of Ghana Cocoa Board is also here with us, Chairman of Fosu Ampofo. Shall we do a big round of applause? And of course, on a very light note, when we heard the choir give us a beautiful rendition of the university anthem, I heard a few people try to sing Glory, Glory, Man United. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that unfortunately on the table, we do not see Manchester United doing anything major. So today is for Infansipim and, Prof. But today is for Infansipim and Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. Leave Manchester United out of this. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I duly acknowledge the presence of Madame Charlotte Osei, who is a former chair of the Electoral Commission, a member of the Constitutional Review Committee that just completed its work, and also a board member of Ghana Gas. Thank you very much, madam. We do celebrate you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, lawyer Eduji Tamaklo is the CEO of NPA. And of course, the Director of Legal Education at the Ghana School of Law. I'm privileged to have learned at his feet, Professor Raymond Atuguba. Of course, seated next to him is one who led the way and provided a path for him, his uncle, who is a legend when it comes to issues of the legal fraternity, and of course, the example that has been set at the level of the Supreme Court. Justice Atuguba, we salute you, sir. For every young person here, the mention of all of these names is not to intimidate anybody, but it's just to give you inspiration and fuel. That is what the UPSA Law School is trying to do with this idea of the Honorific Lectures and Awards. At this time, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, with great respect, welcome here another fine gentleman who has paid his dues when it comes to the bench and the bar. For many years, he served very, very diligently on the bench, and of course, distinguished himself. And of course, by the dint of all of the hard work, he has risen to become the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Of course, considering that this is a common law jurisdiction, we do find his name in many of the books that give us the great examples that equip all of the young people who want to equip themselves with the law. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, please help me with great respect to welcome here to the stage the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Justice Paul Bafo Boni.
We've been told that today is for Infant Spearman, our Honoree Tsatsu Tsikata. So, those of us who went to Konongo Duma Secondary School, some of us think that we went to the best secondary schools, but, well, Your Excellency, the Vice President, my lords, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished members of the bench and bar, respected members of the academic community, eminent guests, traditional leaders. We've been told that this is live on GTV. But those of us who like sports, those who particularly football, to attest to the fact that when matches are live and you are sitting in the comfort of your home, you have the fortune of technology. Sometimes scenes can be played back even while the match is still going on. Unlike when you are in the stadium, sometimes even turning your head to talk to somebody, you may miss a scene. You may miss a goal, and you have to ask, what happened? So one wonders why people still go to stadiums. You see stadiums very full every time because of the statement, I was there. Everybody wants to tell people that when it happened, I was there. I saw it live. I wasn't hiding in the comfort of my room. This is why some of us feel very privileged to have been invited to even take part in this ceremony. It is with profound honor and a deep sense of institutional pride that I joined the UPSA Law School in celebrating an exceptional jurist, scholar, advocate, and public intellectual, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, on the occasion of the conferment of this well-deserved Lifetime Achievement Award in law. The law, as we know, is not merely a profession, it is a calling. It demands intellectual rigor, moral courage, discipline of mind, and above all, fidelity to justice. Across decades of private practice, scholarship, and public service, Mr. Tsikata has demonstrated an uncommon commitment to these ideals, coupled with a stubborn persistence at maintaining the ideals of excellence as a professional. His career has been marked not only by professional excellence, but also by an enduring dedication to the development of Ghana's constitutional order and the strengthening of the rule of law. Over the years, Mr. Tsikata has distinguished himself as a lawyer of formidable skill and rare depth. His mastery of legal principles, his meticulous preparations, and his capacity to marshal complex arguments with clarity and precision have earned him the respect of the bench and the admiration of colleagues across generations. His submissions have frequently illuminated the deeper purposes of the law, reminding us that legal reasoning is at its finest when guided by principle and anchored in justice. In this sense, I dare say that He belongs to the rare breed of lawyers in our lifetime who see the law as more than just being a set of mechanical rules to be manipulated by lawyers to selfish ends. It is also pertinent to acknowledge the personal qualities that have defined Mr. Tsikata's professional journey. Those of us who have encountered him in the practice of law recognize not only his intellectual capacity, but also his resilience, independence of thought, and steadfast commitment to principle. These attributes have enabled him to navigate complex and often demanding legal terrains with dignity and composure. The conferment of this Lifetime Achievement Award is not merely recognition of past accomplishments. It is also an affirmation of his enduring influence on the current generation of lawyers. Mr. Tsikata's legacy continues to shape contemporary legal discourse and inspire younger members of the profession to approach the law with seriousness of purpose and clarity of thought. His example demonstrates that excellence in law is achieved not through momentary brilliance alone, but through sustained dedication over time. The judiciary, which I head, as the guardian of the Constitution and the protector of the rule of law, benefits greatly from the contributions of advocates who approach their work with integrity and intellectual honesty. Mr. Tsikata's career stands as a testament to the constructive role that lawyers play in strengthening legal institutions and advancing constitutional governance. As we celebrate this distinguished honor, we are reminded that the law is a living instrument, constantly shaped by the contributions of those who interpret, apply, and critique it. The vitality of Ghana's legal system depends upon individuals who are prepared to engage thoughtfully with the legal doctrines and courageously with questions of public importance. Mr. Tsikata's work exemplifies this tradition of principled engagement. To the students of the UPSA Law School and to young lawyers across the country, the career of Mr. Tsikata offers important lessons. It teaches us that professional success is best measured not solely by personal achievement, but by the extent to which one's work contributes to the advancement of justice and the strengthening of institutions. It reminds us that the law is most effective when guided by ethical conviction and intellectual discipline. On behalf of the judiciary, I commend the UPSA Law School for recognizing the significance of honoring individuals whose work has enriched Ghana's legal tradition. Such recognition strengthens the values that sustain our profession and reinforces the standards to which we must continually aspire. Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, your contributions to the law have left an indelible mark on Ghana's landscape. Your work has helped shape the contours of constitutional debates, enriched legal scholarship, and strengthened the practice of advocacy. The respect you command across the legal community is a reflection of a lifetime devoted to the pursuit of legal excellence. It is therefore with great pleasure and deep respect that I joined the UPSA Law School and all of you here in congratulating you on this distinguished recognition. May this honor serve not only as an acknowledgement of your achievements, but also as inspiration to future generations of lawyers committed to the ideals of justice, integrity, and service. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in celebrating a distinguished son of Ghana, an eminent lawyer and a valued contributor to our constitutional tradition, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. Thanks for your attention.
Your Lordship, we're very grateful for you for this very special moment that you have created in our history, making sure that you're here physically to ensure that we do the right thing within the processes that we're going to go through to ensure that we confer this great honor on this great man. Shall we do one more big round of applause in appreciation? Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please permit me to acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Srem Sai, also formerly a lecturer at the GNPC Law School and the University of Ghana School of Law. I also duly acknowledge the presence of Professor Thomas Stevens, who is a full professor of petroleum law. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are also privileged to have the royal presence of Oheneba Akwesi Abeye, one of the right hands of Otumfuo Osei Tutu. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? He's a seasoned chartered accountant and also a great representation of traditional authority. Nana Unkwasuo. Also amongst the distinguished mobers that we have here is one very related with the practice of the law and also leadership. I duly acknowledge the presence of a former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Lawyer Tony Forson. His fellow moba, Kwame Nto Amoa, the CEO of GNPC, is also here with his two deputies and a strong team from GNPC where our honoree previously served. I duly acknowledge with great respect the presence of a former Speaker of Parliament, a former, once a student of Accra Academy, and also a member of the Council of State. Shall we do a big round of applause for the Right Honorable Do Ajaho? We salute you, sir. Republic Bank are here, ably represented by their Managing Director, Benjamin Joboku. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? 24-hour economy, that is not a slogan anymore. It is one of practicality. And the man in charge of government's direction and government's policy and execution in that regard is here with us. Mr. Guzi Tano, we salute you. Please do a big round of applause. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate every aspect of our society, I wish to, at this time, also celebrate a fine gentleman who has drawn a lot, not only in terms of blood, but identity from our honoree. The multiple award-winning and internationally acclaimed Manifest is here with us today. Shall we do a big round of applause? And for those of you on a very light note who think that our honoree, the very respected Tsatsu Tsikata, is always about, making his case and advocacy, within the box, please put that aside because he can, do a few lines like M. Shall we celebrate Manifest one more time, ladies and gentlemen? Your Excellency, Excellencies here gathered, Your Lordship, Lord Justices of the Superior and other courts of this country, friends from the academia, friends from various educational institutions, good people of Ghana, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today, as we celebrate, we're also celebrating the history makers of our time and those who provide the standard when it comes to lifting the young people and giving them a mark based on which they will achieve. A great woman she was, a great woman she is, and a great woman she will be in the annals of the history of our nation, not because she was the very first woman who became the Vice Chancellor of a university in this country, not because she is the first person, female, to become a Vice President of this nation, but just because at every single step of her journey, she has ensured excellence. Many people are around in different parts of this country and around the world who have gone through her hands in the lecture halls and have drawn a lot in terms of depth and inspiration. Today, as she comes here as our guest of honor to deliver to us her part of the celebration of Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, I wish that we all celebrate her arrival here on the stage. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman.
Thank you very much. With respect, please take your seats. The Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, the Dean of the UPSA Law School, faculty, our Honoree, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the bar and bench, students, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media too, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to join you in honoring a figure whose work has helped shape how we think about Ghana. At the very personal level, I feel very, very privileged to be here today. I will not go into many details. Here and I know, and we'll keep it at that level. Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata's journey and career has been defined by these three things: scholarship, advocacy, public service. More than that, his career reflects a particular understanding of the law, not only as a profession, but also as a discipline that demands rigor, independence, and judgment. That is important because the law does not sustain itself. Constitutions do not enforce themselves. Institutions do not operate in a vacuum. They depend on the kinds of people willing to test arguments, question assumptions, and when necessary, stand their ground for the greater good of society. This is where the legal profession comes in. Its role is to interpret the law and in the process ensure that power is exercised within limits, consistently, and in the best interest of the nation. Mr. Tsikata's work directly illustrates that responsibility. Over the years, he has engaged difficult questions, sharpened legal debate, and insisted on reasoning grounded in principle. I think this deserves an applause. Thank you very much. In doing so, he has influenced not only outcomes, but the quality of legal thinking itself. Today's recognition is therefore not only about an individual career, it is equally about the standards we choose to uphold as a country. And that is why I commend the UPSA Law School for that choice. Universities advance research and scholarship, but they also set expectations and create standards. By recognizing work of this kind, they signal to the next generation what serious legal practice looks like. To the students here, therefore, the lessons are straightforward. The law requires discipline. It requires courage. And it requires a sense of purpose. It will demand that you keep learning even when you feel knowledgeable, even when you defend principles, when it is inconvenient to do so. It demands that you use your knowledge in the service of society. And my dear students, these are not abstract ideals. They are practical obligations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's constitutional project is ongoing. Our institutions continue to evolve, and their direction depends in no small part on the quality of the minds who engage with them. In honoring Mr. Tsikata, we recognize a body of work that has contributed to that process, and we reaffirm the importance of maintaining high standards in the practice of law. I extend my warmest congratulations to you, Mr. Tsikata, on this well-deserved recognition. Congratulations. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all of us, please join me to especially congratulate Mr. Tsikata for bringing all of us to this position. And I know he'll lead us even further on. Again, congratulations.
We're eternally grateful to you, Your Excellency, for gracing this occasion and playing this very key role in this Honorific Lecture and Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me appreciate Her Excellency, the Vice President. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies and the Dean of the UPSA Law School and the whole team putting together this event are expressing a lot of gratitude to the CEO of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority for the massive support and the belief in this idea. Mr. Chris Pwedi-Mensah, shall we do a big round of applause for him? Also, we acknowledge the presence of Justice Kusi Apia, retired. He is a retired Justice of the Court of Appeal. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? Coincidentally, he happens to be the father of the Vice Dean of the UPSA Law School. The tradition continues. Also, I appreciate the presence of lawyer Thaddeus Sori. He's a seasoned private legal practitioner. We salute him. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare ourselves for the honorific lecture, it is my pleasure to welcome here to the stage one person who flows with music and one who is specialized with the violin. Shall we do a big round of applause as we welcome Dr. Patience Araba Mba and the team. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good people of Ghana, I'd like to remind all of you once again that we're live on the Joy News channel and also GTV and many other platforms. Of course, this is because of the beautiful story that we're celebrating today. The story that has been written by the respected and revered Tsatsu Tsikata, a man of Ghanaian soil and a man of Ghanaian skin. An original story which has to be told to the rest of the world. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen of distinguished measure, continuing students of UPSA School of Law, UPSA, other tertiary institutions, ladies and gentlemen, the great woman of substance who is about to deliver to us the much-awaited honorific lecture is one who has walked a very calculated path in her adult life as a servant of the public. She is also a woman of firsts, and that provides great inspiration for the younger generation. I easily would want to refer to her role as the very first woman to become head of legal and constitutional affairs of the Commonwealth Secretariat from this part of the world. Shall we do a big round of applause for that? She has served this nation diligently as Minister of Education and also Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the story is vast. She has had massive footprints in every other part of public life that she has found herself in. And today, she is more than willing to provide for us the perspective that is needed in celebrating this amazing story of different chapters. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please help me with warm applause as we welcome up here the Honorable Betty Mould Idrisu.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. His Lordship, my Lord, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Representative, the Speaker of Parliament, my own Chairman of the Council of State, Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, members of the Council of State, Excellencies, Justices of the Supreme Court, members of the Diplomatic Corps, judges, lawyers, academia, ministers of the gospel, students, media, friends, foes, ladies and gentlemen. I am here today to deliver either the eulogistic or the honorific lecture, but to honor this man who I met first. Should I say it, Sachu? I met first in 1974. Let me be a good girl and read what was written, what has been prepared, and not what I want to say about him, even though our delightful Esther is sitting here. In the life of a nation, Your Excellency, gratitude, there comes a time when gratitude virtually becomes obligatory. It is viewed as a moment for grateful pause, for dignified introspection, crafted reflection on the life of a rarity, a mentor, a teacher, a public servant, a politician, and a lawyer. Today is one such occasion. We gather in honor of Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. It is a moment for Ghana, for legal practitioners, and I see many of you here. Not many are my seniors, my juniors. Eduji, you know it. Don't say the year. But it is for all of us to look at what a life of dedication has meant to say, and to say without equivocation, this mattered. You, Tsatsu, you mattered. Ghana has produced brilliant lawyers, brave ones too, produced scholars of renown, courtroom advocates of uncommon skill, public servants of genuine consequence. But where brilliance is married to courage, scholarship to service, and professional excellence to unshakable personal integrity, that name is that Tsatsu Tsikata. To speak of him is to speak of a life lived in the pursuit of justice, a career dedicated to the advancement of legal thought, a commitment to public service that has shaped our foundations in Ghana. We are going to talk about Tsatsu, the man, the moment, and the metal. And as we embark on this journey, have patience for me. We are reminded that truly great lawyers are not merely technicians of the law, adept at using the law for the private gain of their clients. For the ilk of Tsatsu, lawyers devoted to the cause are architects of justice, builders of institutions, champions of the public good. Tsatsu Tsikata Volta region of Ghana, a town steeped in culture and memory, perched between the Qatar Lagoon and the open Atlantic, but he grew up in Anambra. And this scholarship scheme, which came in the UAC, benefited most of his children. Tsatsu had home teaching, and in fact the mother was the home teacher. All 4 sons went to participate, while the 3 daughters went to, yes, Madam, Wesley Girls High School. Tsatsu's older brother is my respected senior, very distinguished lawyer and academic, as are also his younger sister, and his brother followed in the footsteps of the 2 siblings, and they have also made their mark in Ghana. From the beginning, there were signs that this man was not an ordinary child. He started school early, anxious to be in the company of his brother. And he was skipped ahead when it was evident he was not only keeping pace, but outrunning everybody, and won a UAC scholarship to Emancipate at the remarkable age of 9 years old. We know what it's like to have youth amongst, not amongst their peers, and you are afraid of bullying. But those, even at that age, they respected him, and they realized that he was somebody who was going to go on to future great things, and protected him even in the beginnings of the asthmatic stage. From Emancipate, Your Excellency, he entered my own University of Ghana, Legon, at the age of 16 years old. Let that sink in for a moment. 16 years old, when most of us were going to senior high 1. Tsatsu Tsikata was reading law at one of Africa's most respected universities, at the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, Legon, where he graduated in 1969 with an LLB with first class honors at the age of 8. His postgraduate scholarship to Wadham College, Oxford University, where he once again distinguished himself. Students, are you listening? It can happen to you. He distinguished himself again and obtained first class honors in civil law. He went on then to hold a junior research fellowship at Corpus Christi College, Oxford, where he also served as a tutor. They are not just biographical facts. This is the architecture, Your Excellency, of a prodigious mind. The Legon and Oxford years cultivated in him an analytical rigor, a love of precision, and a command of legal concepts that served him and served Ghana throughout his career. And what they could not instill, because it was already there, was that moral seriousness that would come to define his engagement with the law. For Tsatsu Tsikata, law was never merely a technical exercise. It was always an ethical one, a context for addressing problems of society and the issues. He returned to Ghana first in October 1973 for a term, when I entered the Faculty of Law. Yes. You know who you are, those who challenge me. Seated on the first row, 30 years my junior. And began as his career as a lecturer of the Faculty of Law at the Faculty of the Law at the University of Ghana, and enrolled as a practicing lawyer at the Ghana Bar in August 1975. I hope I have all these factoids correct. I see it not, so I am correct. He taught me. Tsatsu taught me. My other esteemed lecturer is here, Professor Akilakwansoi. Professor Deteba also taught us. This, to me, was a golden age of law at the Faculty of Law, University of Ghana. Your Excellency, for over a decade and a half, Tsatsu Tsikata shaped the minds of MPs, current and previous Chief Justices, many judges on the bench, Supreme Court and higher courts, and of course, myself. We recall him as a teacher of extraordinary rigor, impatient with intellectual laziness, generous to some of us, and to students. Students, listen, I'm talking to you, who were willing to think seriously. To sit in Tsatsu Tsikata's classroom was a transformative encounter, and it showed you what the law could demand, and, my Lord Chief Justice, what the law could do for you and for society. However, nowhere, I think, is Tsatsu Tsikata's contribution to public service more evident than in his equally transformative work with the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. As Chief Executive of GNPC from 1984 to 2001, he didn't merely just manage an institution. He built one from the ground. He established the frameworks. He established the policies. He established practices that governed and would govern Ghana's upstream petroleum sector for decades to come. In this role, Mr. Tsikata demonstrated that effectively public service not just requires legal expertise, but strategic vision, industrial savvy, political economy, awareness, diplomatic skills, and the ability which he exhibited in negotiating the most complex at that time international contracts that still protect Ghana's interests, whilst also seeking to to bring on board foreign investments. And he built an institution, GNPC. You are here today, and you owe it to Tsatsu Tsikata. On a personal note, my own brother, Alex Mould, was molded by Tsatsu in those days, and he rose to become the CEO of GNPC. So this is the man we are talking about. Petroleum exploration, legal frameworks, national capacity. These are just not abstract theories. This is what helped to build Ghana as a nation. And his tenure at GNPC was grounded in law and orientated towards justice. And it wasn't just about taking out our resources and allowing foreign companies to come in and do what they wanted with us. But he trained engineers, geoscientists, economists, lawyers within the corporation. He understood, maybe because of his educational background, he understood that the long-term value of an oil-rich nation does not lie in only your reserves, but in the human capacity to manage those reserves wisely and sustainably. The subsequent developments we are all seeing, some of you are benefiting from that today. They have borne him out and shown him. What is the movement? This is the part 2 of my honorific lecture. The part 2, the movement of the man Tsatsu. And, you know, Ghana in the 1970s was unmistakably turbulent. We were all there in the universities, going on demonstrations, being faced by strikes, being faced by shutdowns of the universities. But the political environment was turbulent. The National Redemption Council and its successor, the Supreme Military Council, under General Achampong, presided over a country in which political detention was the governing tool. Civil liberties completely suspended anytime it was convenient to them. It was in this climate that the young Tsatsu Tsikata, freshly returned from Oxford, took on cases that few other lawyers would dare to touch, led by the formidable Joe Reindorf. He fought for the release from detention, amongst others as Pa William Ufuriata, one of the big six, as well as over 250 other people in this country. He also fought for the release of Samuel Okudzeto from detention in that period of military rule. The trial of his cousin, Captain Kojo Tsikata, before a military tribunal in the mid-70s, which I attended, saw him led not only by Joe Reindorf, but by his law faculty colleague, the late Dr. Kwesi Botwe and Professor Akilakpa Soya. These were not cases that were going to give him money. These were cases that were dangerous. They proved to be a danger to your personal liberty, to your own fundamental right to life. Then came 1979, after the May 15th uprising led by Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Tsatsu Tsikata became a counsel to Flight Lieutenant Rawlings during his treason trial, led by the then president of the Ghana Bar Association, William Norty Aduama Bosman. A trial that ended abruptly. I want the students to pay attention because this, what I'm saying here, they are historical facts. We lived these facts, and you might get a different coloration other than what truly happened. But that trial ended when the SMC government itself was overthrown on June 4th and Rawlings was sprung out of custody by the other ranks. Tsatsu Tsikata continued as advisor to Jerry John Rawlings through the era of the AFRC and later the Provisional National Defense Council, and then through the constitutional period of the Fourth Republic, maintaining the discipline of a lawyer, advising, arguing, advocating, but never losing who he was and what he stood for in the theater of power. Then came 2001. Following the change of government, Your Excellency, as we know, Tsatsu Tsikata was prosecuted before the fast-track High Court on charges of causing financial loss to the state. He was represented by his classmates from their law faculty days, Professor Evie Dankwa. A famous challenge put to the constitutionality of that court was put before the Supreme Court. It was upheld by a majority 5-4 decision. This decision was soon overturned after President Akufo appointed 2 new judges to the Supreme Court. Young lawyers, listen to me. Appointed 2 new judges to the Supreme Court to enable the impaneling by Chief Justice Akwa of an 11-member Supreme Court, which by a new majority 6-5 reversed that earlier decision. We move. Your Excellency, in the meantime, a normal high court, before which the case had been taken, threw out the charges against him as unconstitutional because the acts took place before the statute under which he was charged was enacted. My Lord, I leave that to you to imagine how this could have been possible. But undeterred, the prosecution at that time reformulated these charges. And after the fast-track High Court had now been declared constitutional by the new majority of the Supreme Court, Tsatsu was again indicted before it while the trial was going on. The judge in the fast-track High Court, who had adjourned the trial to await the decision of the Supreme Court on the issue of immunity. If you were in Ghana those days and active, you would know that this was a huge, huge news in those days. They were looking at the issue of immunity of the International Finance Corporation. The defense had subpoenaed them as a witness. And the decision was 1 week away, 25th June 2018. He decided to end the trial. He announced a conviction and a sentence. So, on 18th June 2008, Tsatsu was convicted, sentenced to 5 years in prison. In the absence, his counsel wasn't there. Meanwhile, the counsel had written to notify the court that he had to be out of jurisdiction. And yet, Your Excellency, as you well know, that did not deter him. He filed his appeal, applied for bail on 6 January 2009, President Akufo offered a presidential pardon. Tsatsu Tsikata rejected the presidential pardon. Students of the law, you are coming up. Remember some of these things. We pray that you never, ever have to go through what some of us went through. But it took till 2016 with Tsatsu fighting it. It took till 2016 at the Court of Appeal in a completely unanimous decision set aside the judgment of the High Court, and acquitted Tsatsu on all counts, finding that obviously that the trial court was woefully in breach of the law. And one important legal point, which I think Tsatsu had wanted to make, is that the executive offer of a pardon should not interfere with the judicial process of an appeal, which is something they sought to convey. Now, finally, almost finally, Your Excellency, we're talking about the mettle of the man, Tsatsu Tsikata. Metal is forged, as all metals are, under conditions of intense heat and pressure. When the fires of imprisonment and professional trial revealed in Tsatsu something remarkable, not bitterness, as I have seen sometimes by others, not grief or grievance, but he was clear-eyed, and he's demonstrated it to me several times. Unshaken commitment to the cause and the system that he had spent his life serving. Let us learn our lessons from there. Consider what it means to reject a presidential pardon, just on the grounds that you know that even though a presidential pardon would free you, and you are having series of asthmatic attacks bearing on your very life in and out of prison, in and out of intensive care, in and out of hospitals. We would have understood if he accepted the pardon, but he did not. He trusted the system, imperfect, politically pressured, but he knew that it could be redeemable. No more profound act of faith in the rule of law, which some of us must learn. Some of us must learn it. That you must submit to the processes of the rule of law and trust in the rule of law, even when the processes have failed you. Ultimately, today, we are honoring Tsatsu Tsikata. His Lordship, the Chief Justice, spoke of Tsatsu's ability in court, and I've been to several courts with him. Naila, have you been to court with him? Yes. You know what it's like. I remember one of the Supreme Court sessions, the Supreme Court judges, I don't think any of them are sitting here today. They said, but Madam Betty, why aren't you saying anything? I said, me, when Tsatsu is standing there, I should talk? No. Please, because he had that rare ability to make a court feel, without theatrics, without raising his voice, as I do frequently. And, you know, he could interrupt a judge in midstream, not from arrogance, but he knew what the judge is saying or doing is wrong, and he would tell him that you are wrong. And opposing counsel sometimes would pull out of a case rather than going to face him in the court. Theodius and Sremsa, you know these things. A man of faith, an elder of the Asbury Dunwell Church, which I must admit I had never heard of until Tsatsu Tsikata joined it. It even came into the politics of his arrest, when his trial began in 2001. And they went to church to arrest him. Breaking news on a Sunday where there's no news in Ghana, breaking news on a Sunday. And he moved on. Tsatsu is the loving husband to our loving wife, Esther. Adorable wife, loving wife, go-getter wife. Esther, we salute you. Devoted father to his children, all of them. an energetic and hands-on grandfather. Today, that's what we are, grandparents. So you've left your legacies. Your Excellency, Tsatsu has left his legacies, the indelible footprints in the life of Ghanaian law. And that is why we are standing here today. There is, first of all, the tangible legacy of the law. The landmark cases argued, whether won or lost. The constitutional principles clarified and defended. The electoral petitions navigated. Petroleum agreements negotiated. Human rights enforced at great personal risk. These, my dear colleagues at the bar and students, they form an archive of Ghana's legal history that no serious student of this law, of law in this country, can ignore. And that is why I was delighted when my young professor, Akufo-Addo, I salute you, Kofi. We have been through a lot together over the last couple of decades. But when he asked me to deliver this honorific, eulogistic lecture, I was very happy to do it because Tsatsu has left indelible footprints in my own life. My daughter is sitting here. She doesn't want me to say this. She's a petroleum economist who goes to him for advice. As I said, my brother Alex, CEO of GNPC, my elder son, well, he's an aberration, Tsatsu. He's a professor of emergency medicine. He's also sitting here. But this is the legacy. They know you. They know who you are, what you are. We all do. His classroom at that time, my dear students, it wasn't a space where students learned what to think. Listen to me. They didn't teach you in those hallowed days, the golden age of the law. I think even my right honorable chairman was not there during those days. It wasn't a space where you learned how to think. It wasn't a space you learned what to think, but it was a space where you learned how to think rigorously, honestly, with full awareness of consequences of argument, exercising your cerebral gymnastics. And I think that this is what we looked for, and this is what he has imparted to so many of us in the law. The moral legacy, the example of a public figure who trusted the Constitution, who did not just escape when he was given the chance, who chose the court over pardon, and who believed in institutions when up to now we are cynical about institutions, but he believed in them, and he taught some of us to believe in them as well. Madam, Your Excellency, my first female Vice President of Ghana, I am immeasurably proud to stand here before you today. You don't know just how difficult it is to be a woman in a high place. And I can tell you, Tsatsu was there for me personally when it proved almost impossible at some point or the other in my public career. And taking time to honor you today, Tsatsu, taking the time to honor you today is to acknowledge that excellence has a place in the Ghanaian consciousness and judgment. And I thank UPSA for that. Is to insist that character matters. Is to insist that character matters. And that scholarship should define who we are. That integrity intertwined with professional life. The measure of a lawyer is not only in the cases you win, and the money we extract from clients. Yes, you make money. Can you live with yourself from making that kind of money? Raymond is here, and one of the greats of the Ghanaian judicial system, Justice Atuguwa. You have no idea of how great this man has been in Ghana. Tsatsu has fought over 50 years in legal practice, in courtrooms, military tribunals, in classrooms, in boardrooms, in the public arena. He has fought with weapons of the law, argument, evidence, precedents, the Constitution, statutes, and principles. He has never fought dirty. He has simply fought well. For all of that, it's the Tsatsu Tsikata. Ghana is in your debt. The legal profession is in your debt. Future lawyers who deploy the learning, who are sitting here today, are in your debt for your remarkable moments, and they salute you. God richly bless your life. Thank you.
Dear Mrs. Betty Moldedrisu, we are eternally grateful to you for adding to the beauty and the history that we're writing here today. May the good Lord bless you abundantly. We're grateful to you. In terms of paying respects and celebrating, I do very much apologize to anybody I may not have noticed. Today, we're in a celebratory mood, and we're seeing all of this through the lens of the great Tsatsu Tsikata, adorned in the royal cloth kente, and I'm very sure that whoever wove this had a beautiful story behind it. But talk about celebrating people, I'd like to pay respects to a legendary heart surgeon who previously served this nation as Minister for Science and Environment. Shall we all pay respects to Professor Frimpong Boateng? And I'm told that any time he was about to perform any of those complex surgeries, all he did was to play a very soothing tune on the piano. What we want to learn, especially for the young lawyers and students of the law, will be how the legendary Tsatsu Tsikata prepared himself anytime he was getting himself ready for one of those very, very thought-provoking and controversial cases. Talk about that once again. We would like to celebrate as one great family the strong arm and the pillar and the foundation behind this great man, Auntie Esther Koba. Shall we do a big round of applause for her? For those of us in this field of communication, she is a gem, she's an example, and she is a trailblazer. She is the founder and CEO of Stratcom Africa. Madam Esther Koba, we celebrate you, and thank you for being what you are in this story. Shall we do it one more time for her? The clergy and the church are also represented here to give us that vast representation of society. I looked across and noticed the presence of Venerable Archdeacon Antonio Tello Nelson. He is the Archdeacon of Accra East of the Anglican Church of Ghana. And across in the middle rows, to your left and to my right, is the legendary Professor Lade Wosonu. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? He served many years as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee and has the responsibility now of leading the Security and Exchange Committee. Honorable Dr. James Kluche Aveji. Your Lordship, I do not know if I'll be in contempt or I'll be breaching any security protocols. He normally would like to sit in the back and operates very effectively. But today, unfortunately, there's nothing he can do about it. The very devoted former National Security Coordinator, Mr. Larry Bevlolati. We salute you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the story we're being told sounds probably far away, especially for those of the younger generation and those who may not necessarily have a personal relationship with our distinguished honoree, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. But today, the media team has done a very, very thorough job of doing a lot in terms of searching into the archives to present to you a 10-minute celebration in visual and audio terms of this beautiful story. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we now focus our eyes on the screens as we go through these moments? Thank you.
He's a teacher all the time.
You learn from him as a preacher.
Selfless servant leader.
A man who loves God, loves his country, loves people.
And national purpose to inspire.
I got to know Lawyer Tsatsu Tsikata in 1977 when I was admitted to study law. There were a lot of whispers of a young lecturer. And so I sat in the class very expectant of this young lecturer who was going to take us on Ghana legal systems and legal methods. And in fact, it was difficult to identify him as a lecturer because he was almost of the same age as the students. And then we were told that he was a genius. He had first class. And he had gone to do his postgraduate and excelled and had come to lecture.
I've known him as a lawyer, but also a teacher. I guess teaching never leaves professionals. You can literally ask him anything, and he says, come home. It doesn't matter what it is. He will sit down and listen to you and go through.
Even in the practice, he is very particular about the kind of impression you give to the people who are watching you carry out your work as a professional. And so, if you are going to make a point that he doesn't think is right, he will tell us, no, this is not how we want to practice our law. He's very particular about that. Integrity, transparency, he's very, very particular.
Tsatsu was able to build the human resource base for the takeoff of the PNDC, and together being a very close confidant to Agyeman-Rawlings, a lot of ideas were initiated and really found expression in the governance of this country. And no wonder when we were faced with trying to explore and exploit our natural reserves like oil, Tsatsu was given that mantle.
If you look at the history of those who ran GNPC quite well after he left office, there were people who trained directly under him, who he trained. And at the time, people thought he was spending too much state resources, but he must have seen something we didn't. He sent those young guys abroad on courses. And they are the ones that came back, and when he left, they held that place together. That impact, we are benefiting from it now.
Tsatsu also reinforced the fact that being a public servant or working for people was one that required dedication, required service, and more importantly, it required the understanding that you were not working for yourself or for your pocket. You were working for a collective and joint enterprise. And if that joint enterprise was successful, then everybody benefits. So we were schooled at GNPC and also in all the other aspects, the political framework and work with PNDC, that the country comes first and we come second. So God, family, country. That's how it worked. And all of that requires service commitment and real dedication, and not personal gratification and lining our pockets.
He likes what is just, and therefore when he sees injustice, will go at it with everything that he has. We're a bunch of people who believe in living by integrity and all that, and because he's somebody who believes in that, it has made us a happy family because we just seek to do what makes us happy, which is what is right.
He is, concerned that people shouldn't take the profession as a profession of a group of people who have no respect for the truth and who have no respect for justice. At the end of the day, whether we lose or we win, was justice said? For him, that's important. If justice was said, fine. So if he comes across as fighting hard, it's because he genuinely believes that justice was not said.
There's no doubt about Tsatsu being a principled person. Probably the most classic illustration of that is when President Akufo-Addo tried to offer him a pardon, and he refused because he felt that his cause was just, that he was innocent, and that he would pursue his innocence to the courts of law, to the highest court, and he was confident that he would be exonerated because there was no basis for his incarceration in the first place. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage to say that I will not accept your pardon and make my circumstances easier, because a shortcut is a short route to perhaps comfort. And I think that's a remarkable testament about his courage, his fortitude, and his principled character.
Naturally, somebody who is like a servant leader, he doesn't project himself. And usually, he doesn't want to hear people using some accolades to show that he's special. He wants people to understand him as somebody who is a product of the environment in which he grew up, and that other people made him what he is, particularly when he got so much committed to his faith in God. He sees everything as the handmaid of the Almighty God.
You seem to think that, well, whilst you're going around, he's fine. He found space in prison to talk about God, to speak to people about their problems, because he was trained to do that. And he always said, God didn't send me to prison in vain, because when he was there, he managed to touch people with his skills and with his word.
What he himself says is that he recognizes that the talents he has are given him by God. So he's constantly going back to him to ask for reinforcement, to ask for wisdom. And that really defines what he does and who he is.
Tsatsu is exemplary as a thought leader who has humility strength of character, and national purpose to inspire. And an important gift to all of us, as somebody who has, if you like, cut the path forward, a straight path, even though sometimes it's narrow and difficult, but he has been there. And he has supported all of us in many ways, diverse ways. And we appreciate him for that.
He has a philosophy of life, and he believes in that philosophy, and he treasures some values, and he goes by that. Principled, committed, and faithful patriot of our country. I bow my heart to him.
In 2026, we honor Tsatsu Tsikata, an exceptionally accomplished lawyer, public servant, and legal academic. Recognizing his commitment to public interest, his influence in shaping generations of legal minds, and his enduring impact on Ghana and beyond.
And of course, on another very light note, dear Father Tsatsu Tsikata, when you eventually get here on this stage to speak, cameramen, please be on standby to take the first set of photographs. That is the only thing I get to enjoy on a day like this, when many are trying to look for him and just congratulate him. So please do grant this for me, sir. Thank you very much. And the laughter, I guess, is a yes. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to pay respects to Professor E.V.O. Dankwa. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? Professor E.V.O. Dankwa has a very big story to tell with the Honoree. And while all of the celebratory messages were coming in, I also remembered another thing, that probably it's time for our friends in cinema and in film to start putting together something major on the life, the work, and the experiences of Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. And of course, I already hear some applause. I've seen some seasoned former members of parliament here. And so as many as are in favor of seeing a movie or a film or a state production on Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, say aye. Your Lordship, I think the ayes have it. This is a high point because it has a lot in terms of emotions and a lot in terms of gratitude to the Most High God. Next, we will be listening to a performance which will be jointly performed by his better half, Madam Esther Koba and Dr. John Azu. Shall we do a big round of applause and welcome them? Okay, so it means that will come up later on. It will come up later on. But ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to welcome up here on the stage a fine gentleman who has now carried the mantle at the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. I'm sure that he also has tons of words of gratitude to share at this time, purely because of the foundation that has been laid by our honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome on the stage Mr. Kwame Ntua Amoah, CEO of GNPC.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, His Lordship, Justice Paul Bafuboni, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the Vice Chancellor, UPSA, the Dean, UPSA Law School, the Chairman of the Council of State, Council of State member, Mrs. Betty Modidrisu, you did a fantastic job. Honoree, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand on all the protocols already established. So today, as we join the UPSA Law School to celebrate your lifetime achievements, we wish to highlight the noble contributions that you have made to Ghana as a whole and to the growth of the energy sector with the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation as the centerpiece. Tsatsu, or Mr. T, as we fondly refer to you, we are indeed proud of your selfless and visionary leadership as chairman and chief executive in the foundation years within which the corporation became an engine of national transformation. Under your tenure, GNPC worked to advance the search for oil and gas in uncharted territories. And I think in those days, today we have a lot of companies in Ghana. In those days, there were very few here, and I think we were producing just about, we had a history of producing just about 6,000 or so barrels a day. Under your vision, you worked hard to advance the search of oil and gas, and you opened up, if you like, the offshore basins to a lot of investments, and your vision and foresight even led to Ghana drilling the first horizontal well in the 70s in Ghana, in West Africa. You also led Ghana to secure drilling assets to facilitate independent offshore oil and gas exploration. And your ambition was to move Ghana toward energy sovereignty. I don't think a lot of people believed in that, but when we found oil in commercial quantities in 2007, 2008, we realized that Ghana did not have any assets to contribute because we had sold off all the assets, the drilling assets that we could have leveraged to have a more significant local participation in the oil and gas production. And your vision was very holistic in the way you saw the role that the midstream, downstream, finance, energy transportation, and transmission, and efficient energy utilization, all of these played in ensuring a well-functioning upstream oil and gas business. And you saw also how linking markets and infrastructure across Africa will consolidate and sustain this vision. We particularly note your pioneering role in leveraging oil and gas conferences in Ghana. And I think the Nigerians at that time, were laughing at us. They were saying, Ghana, you don't have any oil, but you're always, bringing us together in Ghana for oil and gas conferences. But you saw that as a key platform that brought our neighbors and international oil and gas companies together. And you used that platform to convince them to establish the West Africa Gas Pipeline Project, which was a groundbreaking project and which had great promise in turning gas that was otherwise being wasted into energy with the potential for lighting homes and cities across Africa. And we are enjoying the benefits of that today. Gas today is fueling more than 70% of our power generation. Your era saw advancements in the establishment of several industries. And in this regard, we cannot fail to mention the leadership and foresight underpinning our investments in EcoBank. I mean, GNPC actually was a founder of EcoBank. And this is in response to the vision of linking everything together, because the oil industry needs, a lot of investments. So banking for us was a critical plank in achieving those objectives. And EcoBank today has blazed the trail in indigenous West African finance and banking. He also supported the establishment of Temalub Oil Company, which provided lubricants, produced lubricants locally to feed the industry, the oil and gas industry. And what was even more important, he supported the production of clean cook gas stoves, which were designed by GNPC staff, fit for both domestic and commercial use, long before the energy transition, which, when we aimed at converting households to the use of gas to help avert increasing deforestation. And I think that this has been spoken about already, because perhaps your greatest legacy is in the building of the capacity of indigenous Ghanaians to lead on and operate complex energy systems and embedding technical capacity within the nation. The examples abound of remarkable men and women, engineers, geoscientists, administrators, and policymakers whose brilliance and sacrifices continue to support Ghana's growth and development. A few of the names come to mind. Guzitano, Presidential Advisor on the 24-hour economy. Chui Opoku, Larry Ajete, Nana Boachi Asafo-Adjei, Thomas Menu, who I see sitting in the audience, Theophilos Ashirin, Victor Sunuata, and Alex Mould, Auntie Betty, Alex Mould, Joseph Dazi, and yours truly. Your unrelenting commitment to manpower development is today also strengthening research and teaching in our universities and technical institutes and leadership in various energy institutions. Professor Abochi talked about the loss to academia, but I think the work that Tsatsu did in GNPC has now created more people like him who were giving back to the university to support the university development. Now, through all these, the solid foundation that you laid has enabled GNPC to grow and develop as a well-grounded national oil company with talented young men and women who are able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world. Thank you, Mr. T, for allowing us to celebrate your lifetime achievements today. Ayeko, for your immense impact on Ghana's development. I rest my case. Thank you.
We're grateful to the CEO of GNPC for adding his voice to the words of celebration. And now, Your Excellency, Your Lordship, Chairman of the Council of State, Lord Justices of the Superior and other courts of Ghana, the Busuapenying and executives and team from MOBA, distinguished guest ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to refer to the words of the legendary Professor VCRAC Crab, who is a pioneering legislative council of the Republic of Ghana and a legal luminary. He, during his lifetime, was a seasoned and worthy Freemason. And one day, when he was being celebrated at a Masonic meeting, he responded to a toast with some very few words. And he said, and I quote, "In life, I did not come looking for money, but I came looking for greatness." When you live, make sure that you go in search of greatness. I believe that these words from the legendary Professor VCRAC Crabbe go to encompass the beautiful story that we're all celebrating today. And those words describe one man here, and that is the one and only Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, whom I now, with respect, invite here to the stage. Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, please do stand here in the center. Before we do this. Yes, please stand in the center. Respectfully, would like to welcome Her Excellency the Vice President and the Chief Justice, together with the Dean of the UPSA Law School. Shall we welcome them with a big round of applause? At this point, I'll hand over to Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi, and he will read the special citation for this moment of honor.
Your Excellency, my Lord the Chief Justice, this is the climax, essentially, of today's program, and the UPSA Law School is honored to honor you. And so, therefore, with the permission of Her Excellency, the Vice President and the Chief Justice, I would read the citation for all to witness as follows. Citation for Lifetime Achievement in Law Award. The UPSA Law School presents this Lifetime Achievement Award to you, Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata, in recognition of your distinguished and enduring contribution to the life of the law, constitutional justice, and public service in Ghana. Over the course of 5 decades, your scholarship, advocacy, and institutional leadership have helped shape defining moments in Ghana's legal and constitutional development. Your work stands as a touchstone on the frontiers of Ghanaian jurisprudence, reflecting both your depth of intellectual rigor and an unwavering commitment to the public good. Through your exceptional brilliance in practice and academia, you have left an indelible imprint on legal thought in the Commonwealth of Ghanaian law. The formation of many proteges and mentors and deliberate inspiration of generations of lawyers, scholars, and public servants continue to extend your influence and define an era. This award extols the excellence of your remarkable career, but also the enduring legacy of your notable firsts. Your life's work demonstrates what becomes possible when vision is marked with courage, discipline, with fidelity to principle, and unwavering perseverance with faith. And so, therefore, in recognition of a lifetime devoted to teaching, advocacy, and service, the UPSA Law School is honored to present this award to you in the presence of erstwhile colleagues and friends, and in witness of a lifetime of excellence presented this 15th day of April, 2026. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Please do take your seats. And now, Your Excellency, Your Lordship, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good people of Ghana, please permit me now to make way for a man of principle, a man with a heart, and a man of service, the one and only Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata.
Vice President, Chief Justice, Chairman of the Council of State, Vice Chancellor of the University, Dean of the Faculty of the School of Law, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am rather overwhelmed by this great cloud of witnesses, particularly the presence of the Vice President of the Republic on this occasion. Akufo-Addo didn't forewarn me that the Vice President was actually going to be in attendance. Thank you, Vice President. For fitting this into your packed program and for your kind words. Your own distinguished academic career, as well as your sterling leadership of the University of Cape Coast are well known. You are forever a trailblazer. And now, as the first female to hold the office of Vice President, you are showing your exceptional leadership qualities, as well as your lifelong commitment to service of this nation. I believe the nation is grateful, and I am grateful for your presence here today. May I at this point also acknowledge 3 women, 2 who are participating in this event virtually. My mother, Mrs. Annie Tsatsu. My aunt, Mrs. Georgina Apalu. And the third, my wife Esther, who is here in person. I owe special debts to these women, as will be evident shortly. I'm touched too that the Chief Justice is here. CJ has risen through the ranks to this highest level of office in the judiciary, humbly and patiently, maintaining a calm dignity throughout. Thank you, CJ, for your service to the nation. And thank you for your kind words today. The conferment of this Lifetime Achievement Award on me by the University of Professional Studies, Accra, is humbling. I'm grateful to this university, to you, the Vice Chancellor and Council, and to the School of Law, and particularly Dean Kofi Abochi, for doing me this honor. I want to thank especially Mrs. Betty Moldi-Drisu for her lecture today honoring me. There are important observations she has made about the affairs of our nation over the decades that should matter to us all. Betty has distinguished herself in her own career, including at the Commonwealth Secretariat, then becoming Attorney General, Minister of Education, and now on the Council of State. She carries all her laurels lightly
and gives some credit to those of us who were her teachers in the past. She even relishes stories from the old days. Thank you, Betty. The subjects I taught from the early 70s at the then Faculty of Law, University of Ghana, Legon, were Ghana Legal System, an introductory course for first-year students, and Jurisprudence, a course for third-year students, which became my signature course, as it were. Jurisprudence delved into legal theory. What is law? And it ranged over various answers to that question that theorists had put forward over the years. A book by Professor H.L.A. Hart, The Concept of Law, had been a basic textbook from my student days. There was a question posed in the analysis of Professor Hart, which has stayed with me. How do we distinguish a legal system from a gang of robbers? Is law any more than a gunman situation writ large? What is it that makes laws obligatory? We lawyers certainly do not see ourselves as robbers or gunmen. We are learned friends with esquire added to our names. Judges are lordships and ladyships. And I'm really deeply moved to see many of your lordships and your ladyships here. Again, I honestly did not expect you, but thank you for being here for this occasion. I would like us in all seriousness to consider whether we contribute to the well-being of society in a way that should make clear to the world the difference between a legal order and robbers and gunmen. When I entered the Faculty of Law, Legon, in October 1966, I began an immersion into what constitutes the corpus of the law of Ghana. Those 3 years of intensive study were not just about sitting in classrooms or in the law library. They also involved personal interactions with the lecturers and also with colleague students. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the impact on me from those years of Professor G.K.A. Ofoswama. He taught me contract law in my first year, but his influence on my life and understanding of law went beyond the law of contract, as he opened up his wealth of legal knowledge, his home, including library, and his very humanity to me. He literally held me by the hand after I finished Legon and took me to Oxford University to begin my postgraduate studies in October '69. Thank you, K.A. Dr. Thomas Mensah, who taught me Ghana legal system in my first year and became acting dean of the faculty before he left to work with the International Maritime Organization in London, was also one of my teachers whose impact has been lifelong. Apart from the time in Legon, after he moved to London, I enjoyed my trips from Oxford to his home in Golders Green, where I basked in the family atmosphere that his wife, Akosua, particularly always ensured. Even as I sat at the feet of Dr. Mensah, I honor their memory on this occasion. I cannot fail to mention the role of Professor Alex Kwapong, Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Legon, in my legal education. In my third year at Legon, the dean of the faculty was Professor A.W.B. Simpson, who had come from Oxford University as part of a cooperation program that Professor Kwapong had established with the Faculty of Law in Oxford University. It was under that program that we had a memorable visit from the legendary Professor Cross, a blind professor whose authoritative work on the law of evidence, among others, remains to this day a standard reference. Under the program, students were to go from the law faculty, Legon, to do postgraduate studies in Oxford. I was the first beneficiary under that arrangement. And I went to Wadham College, where Peter Carter, with whom Professor Kwapong had signed the MOU, was my tutor, as was the distinguished international lawyer Ian Brownlee, who later also came to the Legon Law Faculty for a year. What better career and life shaping, precisely orchestrated, could a 19-year-old Strong Bay boy ask for than that? Professor Kwapong continued to keep a close watch on how I was doing, both as a student at Wadham and when I became a junior research fellow at Corpus Christi, till I returned to the Legon Law Faculty, initially for a term in October 73 and finally in October 74. Thereafter, till his passing, I had to make sure that he was satisfied that I was living up to all the investments he got the University of Ghana to make in my education. There were other teachers of mine at the law faculty, to all of whom I'm indebted. S.O. Jando taught constitutional law in first year, while in second year, J.K. Agyeman taught the law of torts and Kofi Deanan commercial law. Dr. Obed Asamoah taught me international law in my third year. Even as I acknowledge the influence of my lecturers, there was one colleague student with whom I worked together, not just as a fellow law student, but also as a brother in the University Christian Fellowship, E.V.O. Dankwa. He it was who stood by me as a lawyer when I was on trial from early 2001 until I was finally acquitted in 2016. He was ably supported as junior counsel during most of the High Court trial by a former student, Roland Agbenuto, of blessed memory, who had a distinguished career as a lawyer in the military and in private practice. In an interview for a UAC scholarship on 22nd December 1959, I was asked what I wanted to be in future. I boldly announced, without hesitation, that I was going to be a lawyer and subsequently a judge. Of course, with parents who ignited in us their children from a young age the zeal for reading books in the quest for knowledge, and who spared no effort and resource towards our education, ambitions like that should not surprise. My siblings and I were blessed with such parents. Our mother, who had been a pupil teacher, was also a home teacher. In my specific case, my mother also bore the brunt of my being asthmatic from about age 4. She was often with me in hospital. Forever etched in my memory is my mother lying on the floor at night beside my hospital bed during some of those episodes. I can't, however, leave out the story of 17th July 1959, when I was scheduled to take the common entrance examination. A dawn attack of asthma threatened to disrupt the plan. My mother was in Kolebu Hospital about to deliver a newborn baby. It was my father who took me to his friend Dr. H.S. Bannerman's clinic at Mamprobi. After I obtained relief from treatment there, I insisted that I was well enough to go for the common entrance examination. Incidentally, the baby girl born on the 17th July 1949 also became a lawyer, my sister Do. By God's grace, asthma did not derail my educational progress. Not even when during the second term of my first year in Fansivim, Headmaster Bartels invited my father to the school for a discussion about my health and proposed that I go home for the rest of the term and start Form 1 again from the next academic year, which was that year's 1960, to start from October. Thank God I defied the adults. Parental steering towards law as a career was sealed by the close relationship between my parents and my uncle, Justice Apalu, my mother's big brother, whom I have to hold responsible for the answer I gave at the UAC interview, especially the part about becoming a judge, which I'm not able to fulfill. From when he returned to Ghana in the early 1950s, after qualifying as a barrister in England and throughout his career, ending up as a Chief Justice in Kenya after having been Chief Justice in Ghana, he was very much the role model, not only for me, but for all my other siblings. He He was a model of legal erudition and wisdom, as well as judicial comportment, and had our attention from our childhood. His wife, Auntie Georgie, was very much a part of our attachment to our uncle, and she has remained a constant source of encouragement to this day. When I returned from Oxford to Legon to teach, I was soon thrust into part-time practice of law because of the state the country was in and in my quest to contribute to a better Ghana. As junior counsel to Joe Rindolph, the preeminent legal practitioner of his generation, I was involved in cases such as a habeas corpus application for the release of some 259 prisoners in various prisons around the country, Republic versus Director of Prisons, ex parte Ango Dagomba was the name of that case, and an application seeking the release of Mr. William Oforiatta Pawili from custody, both cases during the Champong regime. Incidentally, I'd become close to Pawili from the Legon student days, when he came from time to time to speak to us at the University Christian Fellowship. A few times after his talk, Pawili himself would stroll with me from the meeting place above the bookshop to my room in Legon Hall. My roommate then was his nephew, Duke Dankwa. I remember Pawili once encouraging us to go and watch the film 10 Commandments, which was then showing at the Orion Cinema, and giving us money for the purpose. And we did go to watch the film, we didn't just spend it. I was also junior counsel to Joe Rindolph, together with Professor Akil Akpasoya and Dr. Kwesi Boche, in representing Captain Kojo Tsikata before a military tribunal at Burma Hall in 1975. Joe Rindolph was undoubtedly the lawyer from whom I learned the most in legal practice. His advocacy was formidable and eloquent, a joy to behold. Ironically, we were on opposite sides in the well-known case of Amoakutifo and Attorney General, which was about whether Chief Justice Apalu had to undergo vetting before Parliament to maintain his position upon the coming into force of the 1979 Constitution. Joe was then serving as Attorney General. The trial of Flight Lieutenant Rawlings after the May 15, 1979 uprising obviously thrust me into the national spotlight, irreversibly, I may say. It was a time of great agitation in the nation. A line of Rawlings' statement to his investigators, "Leave my men alone," which was quoted in the opening prosecution statement by the Director of Public Prosecutions, G.E.K. Akins, captured the imagination of the nation, appearing on the front page of the Daily Graphic. It showed a readiness to take responsibility as a leader that endeared him to many. I was led in that defense by the then president of the Ghana Bar Association, Mr. Bosman, as Betty mentioned. A number of other reputable lawyers, such as Emil Short, were also involved as counsel for the co-accused. And as we know, that trial ended with Rawlings being sprung out on the morning of 4th June 1979. A few days before 4th June, on Saturday, 1st June, I was going to the Air Force Mess in Burma Camp for the wedding reception of my classmate, Kwamna Anaman. Driving from Legon, I had a problem with my car just about when I reached the roundabout at 37 Hospital. I decided to park the car at a convenient location and get a taxi to the Air Force Mess. On arrival, I took out a note to pay the taxi driver, who then was having difficulty finding change. Across walks a young man, obviously a soldier, but not in uniform, who must have recognized me from my being at Burma Hall that week for the Rawlings trial. He asks the driver how much the fare is, pays the driver, then as the taxi leaves, he turns to me and confidently says, "Don't worry, your man will be out soon." The calm assurance of that young soldier in essentially telling me about an upcoming coup d'etat is quite unforgettable. Ghana has come a long way since those heady days. The Fourth Republic has provided the longest period of stable constitutional democratic order for the country. This is something and guard jealously, not take for granted. The legal profession, and in particular the judiciary, have important roles to play in sustaining this order. So we must examine ourselves honestly and speak frankly if we are to deserve the confidence of the society. I found it sad during the election petition following the December 2020 presidential election that the expression unanimous FC became the name of our Supreme Court. The challenge to the declaration of results formally announced on 8 June 2020 by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission required a fair and just adjudication. It was not in dispute that the figures of the outcome of the election that were announced by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission were corrected in a press release by the public relations officer of the Electoral Commission. Subsequently, the figures that were presented in response to the petition by the Electoral Commission, returning officer, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, even though she had deposed to an affidavit verifying the answer of the Electoral Commission and was supposed to testify, did not testify to present the authoritative final figures, much less explain the ever-changing figures from the Commission. To this day, therefore, the country has no definitive accounting for the 2020 presidential election. In the face of evidence of her failure even to be in attendance at the process in the collation center at the EC head office, the declaration of results that she made was even more problematic. Unanimous FC was the verdict of the people on the proceedings in the Supreme Court, which shielded the returning officer from accounting to the people of Ghana. The negative reaction of ordinary people to the appearance of judges to participate in the swearing in of the new president on 7 January 2025 was an unfortunate reflection of the people's attitude to the unanimous FC. I may also say that from the point of view of President Mahama, whose election petition was dismissed by the unanimous FC, vindication came comprehensively in December 2024. What he could not have done with the hanged parliament after the 2020 election, he now has a chance to do decisively with a supermajority in parliament. This vindication, however, comes with a heavy weight of responsibility and expectation, which I believe the president is conscious of. Let me recall, sadly again, that in December 2020, the people of the Santro, Kofi, Akwafu, Likpe, and Lolobi South traditional areas, by an announcement on the evening of 6 December 2020, were prevented from voting in the Hohwe constituency they had previously voted in under a valid constitutional instrument. Yet a winner was declared of the election in that constituency, and he served in parliament in a period when the citizens of Ghana in the South traditional areas had no representation in parliament. That was an undermining of the very fabric of the Republic of Ghana, in addition to being a violation of the fundamental human right to vote of those disenfranchised citizens. Professor Margaret Kweku and other petitioners first sought from the High Court in Ho remedies for the human rights violation. The High Court in Ho granted an interim order of interlocutory injunction. The then Attorney General ran to the Supreme Court and had the court pronounce that since one of the remedies being sought was the invalidation of the results of a parliamentary election, the procedure of an election petition in the High Court was the only procedure to be used to bring the matter to court. The Supreme Court cited some of its earlier decisions in cases involving J.H. Mensah and Baba Jamal, among others. The interim order of interlocutory injunction lapsed. The petitioners then filed an election petition and went through a process of trial, where again, the Electoral Commission chose not to testify to explain their conduct. In July 2024, the High Court decided that it did not have jurisdiction over the matter. Following an appeal, the Court of Appeal recently quashed the decision of the High Court, but now stated a case for the determination of the Supreme Court. Judicial remedy for the disenfranchisement in December 2020 of Ghanaians in the South traditional areas is still pending. It cannot be said that the subsequent creation of a Gwan district and a Gwan constituency are sufficient to remedy the injustice to the people of Sao. For one thing, the mere denomination of a district and a constituency does not provide the development resources that are the legitimate aspiration of the people. For the period, they lacked representation in Parliament, and a share of the resources that could have been available through a member of Parliament, I dare say they are owed reparation. The historic injustice of the declaration by the EC of the election of a member of Parliament for a constituency to which they belong but were denied a vote in awaits judicial resolution. Please remember that the EC itself has admitted that it would have been illegal to have asked the voters in those areas to vote in the Boem constituency in December 2020. Yet, that is what the constitutional instrument which the EC has claimed in its defense to the election petition to be the applicable instrument. That is what that instrument would have required. There is an unsettling judicial contradiction, which I must also point out. While the Supreme Court, in respect of Sao, insisted that an election petition in the High Court was the only way to invalidate an election petition, when it came to an action initiated in the Supreme Court to invalidate the result of a parliamentary election in Asin North, the Supreme Court dismissed an objection to its jurisdiction to invalidate the parliamentary election that was based on its own previous decisions, went ahead to grant initially an interlocutory injunction preventing the elected member of Parliament, Honorable Jachi Kwesen, from being in Parliament. Remember, this was the time the e-levy was being pushed through. And eventually delivered a final decision invalidating the Asin North parliamentary election. The resulting by-election, however, saw Honorable Jachi Kwesen win again with an even bigger margin. Despite all the machinery of government being massed up against him, new roads suddenly being constructed in the area, the president, vice president, and the whole machinery of the party in government moving in to campaign against him, he maintained this remarkable victory streak in December 2024. During the period when the interlocutory injunction prevented him from being in Parliament, the people of Asin North were deprived of representation in Parliament at a time when important national issues such as the e-levy were under consideration. Honorable Jachi Kwesen, who also faced an obviously politically motivated criminal trial from 2022, was fortunately acquitted in April 2025 on all charges upon a submission of no case. And he now serves our nation not only as MP for Asin North, but also as the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. I must also speak about my own experience of being tried and imprisoned, as these two provide lessons about the misuse of both executive and judicial powers. Upon an application by my lawyer, EVO, the Supreme Court, by a 5-4 majority, declared unconstitutional both the so-called fast-track High Court, before which I was arraigned, and my having been summoned to the court in the name of the president. I think I may be one of the only people, I'm sure I'm the only person since Republican Ghana who has been summoned to a court in the name of the president. And that was despite the fact that the Constitution requires the independence of the judiciary. Now, after that 5-4 decision, as Betty pointed out, President Kufuor immediately took steps to appoint 2 new judges to the Supreme Court for the express purpose of enabling Chief Justice Weredu, who was one of the minority in the 5-4 decision, to empanel those 2 new members of the Supreme Court as part of the review panel. The then Attorney General, later President Nana Akufo-Addo, held a press conference after the Supreme Court decision, condemning the judges in the majority for what he called a perverse decision. According to plan, the review ended up overturning the earlier decision by a 6-5 majority. Police were sent on the Sunday after the first decision of the Supreme Court to the church where I worship to arrest me. I had always made myself available to the police. The only reason for that particular event immediately following the Supreme Court decision in my favor was to show that even that court decision did not matter to the powers that be. Later that same week, new charges were brought in a normal high court against me. These were again dismissed on the basis that they were unconstitutional, being in breach of the clear constitutional provision against criminal legislation being used retroactively. Once the president got the review panel he wanted, and the Supreme Court now went his way, I was arraigned before a fast-track high court again. And on June 18, 2008, which was not a day set for judgment in the case, and whilst there was pending in the Supreme Court, as again Betty mentioned, a ruling as to whether the IFC had immunity from being subpoenaed as a witness for the defense, the trial judge, who had previously decided to await the decision of the Supreme Court, now announced that the day of judgment has come. She disregarded the fact that my lawyer had written to notify the court he had to travel out of the jurisdiction. He said to me, "You are a lawyer yourself," unquote. I pointed out that I was being represented by counsel throughout the trial, and I did not even have the brief for the case, so I could not conduct my defense myself. The person who came to court with me that morning, the judge required that we be in court as early as 8 a.m. that day. And so I had to pick him up. So that person was my lifelong friend, more like an older brother, John Henry Mate Newman, President Mills' chief of staff. So I picked up Mate from his office to go to court, and at the end, I had to give him my car keys to drive the car home. There was no question that the judge was determined to send me to prison at all costs that day, urged on by the then Attorney General, Joe Garte, who had not appeared in court for about a year and a half since the judge had been adjourning proceedings to await the appeal in respect of the issue of this IFC being subpoenaed. He was in court that day, however, with his full team, about 5 of them, for no other purpose than to have me convicted and sent to prison. The transcript of the proceedings that day makes interesting reading. It was published in the Legon Observer at the time. I encourage lawyers and law students and members of the public in general to obtain that transcript and read it for themselves. The value of legality and justice is something that governments, especially those who claim to be committed to the rule of law and democracy, must recognize. Otherwise, they create distrust for the very constitutional and legal order that is their claim to authority. They become no different from the gang of robbers that Professor Hart wanted to differentiate a legal system from. We lawyers in particular, judges most especially, must be in the vanguard of the respect for legality and justice. On my first Sunday in prison, I attended a church service. A pastor came from Asamankesi, by name Jones Owusu-Ejei. Exodus 50:20 was one of his 2 texts for the sermon. Joseph saying to his brothers, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." On the 10th anniversary of my imprisonment, my wife and I joined Pastor Jones and other colleagues who had organized a medical mission to the Nsawam prison to provide free medical care, including surgeries to inmates of the prison as well as prison officers. A prisoner came to me. He reminded me that he was the one who had come to ask if I had medication to help another prisoner who had a bad asthmatic attack. I had given him some medication, which he told me had saved the life of the other prisoner. He then told me also that the other prisoner had eventually come out of prison and was outside the country at the time, and always recalled with gratitude how the medication from me had saved his life. The prisoner speaking to me then added his own observation that it would have been unlikely, unfortunately, that the other prisoner could have been taken out of the prison to receive urgent medical care. I had a better chance to be taken out, so it was okay that I gave away my medication. Last December, a gentleman left a message for me at my mother's house not far from here, asking me to call him. When we spoke, he said he had been at the Nsawam prison with me and that he had asked me for legal help with his case. I had introduced him to a young lawyer who had visited me in prison. The lawyer helped him without charge. After getting out of prison, he had gone abroad to pursue studies, and on returning to Ghana in December, had tried to get in touch with the lawyer to express his appreciation, only to learn, sadly, that the lawyer had passed. The gentleman has not only earned his doctorate degree studying abroad, but is now part of a high-powered advanced intelligence research group based at a university in Japan. God Meant It for Good was the title of my reflection on the first anniversary of my imprisonment. It was published in the Daily Graphic. On the 5th anniversary, my title was 5 Years On, His Mercies Never Fail. That was 2013 during the election petition. And on the 10th anniversary, I Overflow with Praise was my title. All these reflections were published in the Daily Graphic. By God's grace, I have never harbored any grudge or felt any bitterness against any of those who were involved in all that happened to me during the Kufuor regime. However, I do not wish such a desecration of justice as I experienced on anyone, no matter their political affiliation. I do not want to hear of the police going to a church on Sunday to arrest anyone when that person has gone to the police or to court whenever required to do so. In fact, political affiliation, settling political or personal scores, or wanting to show where power lies should not be the reason for criminal prosecution. Not even for a criminal investigation. In the end, on 30th November 2016, I was acquitted on appeal. Earlier, the Supreme Court had ruled that the IFC does not have the immunity that the High Court judge and the Court of Appeal had claimed it had. A judgment that was delivered by the inimitable Justice William Atuguba. At the Court of Appeal, the immunity provisions of the statute of the International Monetary Fund had been ascribed to the IFC, and the Supreme Court overturned that. In the midst of what I went through during this whole period, my wife Esther in particular stood with me with total dedication and in such amazing ways, which is why I'm still here and alive. The Free Tsatsu campaign, which she and close friends, notably Kwesi Pratt and Trichi Opoku, launched for justice in my case, generated public awareness and mobilized incredible support across the nation and internationally. On the morning of Sunday, 16th November 2008, Esther came to the Nsawam prison to bring me food, as she did daily during my imprisonment. She found out that I had been rushed to the Nsawam hospital after suffering a bad asthmatic attack during the night. She rushed to the hospital and saw the bad condition I was in. She was the one who, with the permission of the director of the prison, arranged an ambulance that came from Akufo-Addo to take me to the 37 military hospital. A close friend and brother, Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, had arranged for me to be attended to there. I was sent to the intensive care unit. Eventually that evening, the doctors at 37 decided that I needed to be moved to the National Cardiothoracic Center at Kolebu. They had spoken to the director, Dr. Frimpong Boateng, who agreed to have me in cardio. By the time I got there in an ambulance from 37, Dr. Sribo, the deputy director, whom Yusuf had again contacted, was waiting at the intensive care unit to attend to me with the urgency my situation required. That week was a life and death struggle. The goodness of God and His grace were manifested so powerfully to me in that time, as indeed throughout my life. They were manifested in the love and care of my wife, the compassion of the director at the Nsohom prison, the professionalism and attentiveness of the medical personnel at each hospital, the love and care also of my mother, siblings, children, other family members, and friends who helped me through the ordeal that I have only given you a glimpse of. I could not have survived to be here today if I did not have all that love and support. On this wonderful occasion, allow me to invite my wife, Esther, to join me here. And she will actually deliver the conclusion to my remarks.
I deliver it in song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found, was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, He has already come. 'Tis grace has brought Him safe thus far, and I tell you, grace will lead him home. People, the Lord has promised good to him. His word, His hope secures. He will His
If you will believe with us, He will your shield and pardon be, as long as our lives end due. We give God all the glory. We give Him all the praise.
Thank you. Thank you, Esther. And thank you, Dr. John Osomazu on keyboard. To God be the glory. Thank you, and God bless you all.
And call this a solemn reflection on the life of a legal luminary. Tsatsu Tsikata is the man we're talking about there. Quite a very touching ending part to what's likely to be the beginning of, the inspiration of many more young lawyers that will take up this great feat that he stroked in the legal fraternity. And of course, you're just watching live pictures there at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. Emil Short, who we've not seen in a very long time, is also there. The Chief Justice himself and others, as you see there, exchanging pleasantries with Tsatsu Tsikata. And it just signifies the kind of respect that is accorded this individual. And mind you, that many across the country can just not forget about his contribution to legal development, be it education or whatever it is. Fortunately, and by coincidence, I don't know if it's by design, we have some lawyers in studio as well. Noah Ephraim Tete Adamte is a private legal practitioner, lawyer and MP for Akwetia. Bernard Bediako-Beidu is also in studio with me, and they are all watching as this unfolds. In fact, the main reason why we are here, we'll be telling you about it shortly, but probably it's a good time to pick one or two comments from you both as you're watching this very touching moment. Ephraim, I start with you. He's no doubt an impact on many young lawyers, and I'm sure probably yourself as well.
Yeah, of course. I think if I'm not exaggerating, it is impossible to go through legal practice in Ghana and not look up to someone like Tsatsu Tsikata as one of those people you want to emulate. And I come from a generation of lawyers who went to school right during the time of the election petition. So I would say for majority of the people I was in school with, we were in school because of what we saw Tsatsu Tsikata do in court during the election petition. So he's someone that I have always looked up to. And watching today's events, I think I tell myself, this is the kind of path we want to chart for ourselves.
But not the prison aspect. Nobody wants to be in jail. That was a very trying moment for him. The Honorable Bediako is also watching, and I'm sure that for you politicians, you want your pound of flesh. That's the usual, happening within politics. But he's advising us now that no matter the differences we may have politically, that should not creep into the legal profession and the delivery of justice. That's a strong statement.
Yes. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers, and then my brother here, and yourself, and then the team. In fact, it's a touching moment.
Yeah.
It's one moment that requires sober reflection. And the reason it is like that is not just because of the achievements of the Venerable Tsatsu, but what became of him vis-a-vis this prison, whatever. We may not want to even
go back there,
like you said.
Yeah.
And that is the advice he's given, and I think we should take it in good faith that going forward, as a people, we should be careful yes, there is nothing that prevents, or there is no problem if one has to account for his stewardship whilst he was ever an appointee or a government servant. But we must do that with some candor. Yeah. We must do that not with the view of, there's showing people where power lies and all that. We've gone through that. We don't need to belabor the point. But like he has always maintained, and it is like that with the God we serve. Sometimes people may do one or two things thinking that that is what is going to kill you, if I say kill you, understand, or to get you down there. It turns out that such treatment even happens to be a blessing, these guys. Today he's a martyr of a sort. Yeah. And we all learn. Of course, you see, he's one of the few who, regardless of the achievements he's chucked, is not so loud. If you've watched it, he barely speaks. Yeah. Even from day one, it's not as if, but he's very tactical. We learn a lot from him. My brother said, well, once upon a time, 2013, everybody was glued to it. And I think a lot of people developed their interest in reading law because of it. Everybody was. And that is what I think we missed in 2020. The possible cross-examination that would have ensued between himself and then the Electoral Commission, the chairperson, who is also a lawyer. Yeah. Not really about who would win or what, but I mean the
education that
education. People were so, because that's what everybody was waiting for. Yeah. Unfortunately, regardless of where you stand, the political divide, when there was that disappointment that
she wouldn't be
in there. We were all, not because someone would win or lose, but we wanted to see it, as we saw, during Dr. Baumia and then the Venerable. And so we wish him well, and we thank God. Have you watched something? A man grows, but never grows. If you've watched it, he's been who he is, and God has been so merciful to him.
Indeed.
And we thank God for his
we say God bless him and his family as well. But that's transitioning us into today's conversation. Let's get it right onto your screens now, because the whole nation has been talking about that ever since that ruling came up from I believe, in Accra High Court. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is out with their side of the story, and I believe that many of you have seen our analysis of that throughout the day. So let's get right into that. Also feeding into the legal system, isn't it? The OSP is out now pointing to the fact that there's a conflicting court decision arising in the Republic versus Issa Sedu and 3 others, known as the Rice Scandal case. And according to them, the proceedings of that case, which is widely referred to as the Rice Scandal case, have taken a divergent path before 2 courts of concurrent jurisdiction. The accused persons are currently standing trial before the High Court, which is the criminal division, where proceedings remain ongoing. The criminal court dismissed an application by the accused persons seeking to strike out the case. The judge adjourned proceedings to await a determination by the Supreme Court on the matter, in which both of the plaintiffs, the Attorney General and the defendant, are now challenging the independent prosecutorial powers of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. In that same development, or in another vein, but parallel, the accused persons initiated a separate action at the High Court, which has general jurisdiction, according to the OSP. In contrast to the criminal court, the general jurisdiction judge declined an application by the OSP to adjourn proceedings pending the outcome of the matter before the Supreme Court. The judge decided that the OSP court lacks independent prosecutorial mandates. That's the subject of our conversation tonight, because the judge directed that the case be referred to the Attorney General for prosecution. So these developments, according to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, have resulted in 2 distinct judicial positions regarding the same prosecutorial authority of the Office of the Special Prosecutor in the same manner. So you have that loud and clear and very vivid on your screens. Let's be fast about this. Ephraim, your take on this position by the Office of the Special Prosecutor?
I think it was expected. that the OSP would make a statement on what's transpired in court today. So I am not very surprised by the position of the OSP. I think the conversation rather has been around whether what the judge in the second case, what the judge said or as part of his orders, whether the judge had also had the jurisdiction to do so. And I think that is the basis for which the OSP wants to appeal and challenge the decision of the court. So it is expected, of course, the decision